Hello and welcome to Battlefield 4 News episode 82, and today we've got details of the fall patch, when it's coming and what's going to be in it. We have details of the next CTE Initiative, and we've got a new trailer from Hardline and some surprising changes that they're making to the game. Let's get started with the fall patch. So this is coming across all platforms at the same time and should include pretty much the same content. There will be some slight variations, but essentially everybody's going to be getting the same version of the game. So here we can see that they hope to get the fall patch targeted for release at the end of September. Now DICE like releasing on a Tuesday, 30th of September is a Tuesday, so that's the date I believe they're aiming for. This is the patch that's been extensively tested and worked through on the CTE servers, and what we're going to see here is highlights because the patch notes are going to be massive. This has been several months work on the CTE servers, and each of the little CTE patches can have 3 or 4 pages of patch notes, so when you combine them all together it's going to be a long read when they come out. The big changes in game modes is going to be Rush. So all the base game maps apart from Dawnbreaker have had a complete redesign for the Rush mode. The Obliteration, Capture the Flag and Carry Assault changes are all minor, and it's mainly to do with the new deploy screen which has been added to all of those. And the Obliteration competitive mode is now available for anyone to play, so that's the 5v5 mode. Although I believe you will have to set it up on a private server, there won't be open servers for that game mode. There's been a big change to sights. None of the medium and close range sights now suffer from visual recoil. They all map exactly to where the gun is aimed, and all the red dot reticles have been deepened in colour so they stand out better against the sky or snow backgrounds. The old Battlefield 4 movement has been scrapped and has been replaced with a system that's very like the Battlefield 3 movement. So you get up to speed faster, transitions between crouching and walking and running are all quicker. Now it says there that they're using the Battlefield 4 animations. Well, some of those have been scrapped as well because they just didn't feel right on the transitions. And head flinching has been reduced. It's not been removed, it's been reduced. So players will still react to getting shot, but they won't move their head out of the way of bullets anymore. The way you can set up your HUD has been completely changed. So now there's a whole load of options for setting up how you want the HUD icons to appear. Whether you want them to be transparent, solid, whether you want them to disappear completely. It's all now pretty much up to you. There's also extra little things like the minimap scaling, and the minimap size is now adjustable in the options, so your favourite is there by default. And of course the other thing in the UI is you now have the triage icon that tells you how long somebody has to be revived. Now they've made that better, and the other thing they've done is when your paddles are now fully charged they beep, so you know when you're going to give 100% revive. There have been yet more netcode fixes, and the biggest one of these is balancing out high ping players versus low ping players. High ping players have had an advantage in recent months on the game. Now what they've done is try to balance this out, so high ping players don't have an advantage over players with a better connection. And they've done this by the server ignoring damage caused by high ping players if the gap has been too long. So if the low ping player makes it round a corner, but on the high ping player's screen he's still out in the open, the server is now going to say, well, you're too far behind, I'm just going to ignore any damage you do until you catch up. The 30Hz tick rate update is being implemented in full on the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 platforms, and all platforms will now have the automatic high frequency update setting. So the whole netcode side will now be handled automatically by the client and the server. You don't need to adjust the settings at all. Now we get onto the stuff that everybody's interested in, and that's the weapons. So weapon attachment changes, and the first of these is the muzzle brake. So the muzzle brake's positives and negatives have all been reduced. So it's now going to reduce less vertical recoil, but it's going to have less of a spread penalty as well. DICE are trying to balance vertical recoil and side to side recoil, and it looks like what they want to do is slightly reduce the side to side recoil on weapons, but slightly increase the vertical recoil on weapons. Side to side recoil is really hard to adjust for, but vertical recoil is easier for players to compensate for. And they've adjusted the heavy barrel to essentially make it worse overall, but better when you're tap firing at long range. So if you're controlling your fire, this thing is going to be a lot more accurate at range, but generally it's going to be slightly worse. And there's been a slight buff to laser sights, so their standing hipfire accuracy is a bit better, but it's not anything you're going to notice. And now we have the weapon changes. So this is a condensed general list rather than a list of the changes to specific guns. So bullet velocity increase. All the slug rounds for shotguns and all the suppressed weapons have had their bullet velocity increased. Slugs are the long range option for a shotgun, but they didn't really have the velocity to make that happen. And suppressors, well, they penalised guns too much. So a sniper rifle with a suppressor on it was pretty much a medium range weapon. It wasn't a long range weapon anymore. So there's still a penalty for using a suppressor. They've just reduced that penalty to make the guns more effective at their intended ranges. The biggest change, and the one that's going to cause most controversy to people who haven't been following what's going on, is the damage model change. So every weapon is now going to take one extra bullet to kill. The exceptions to this are sniper rifles, which are still one-shot kills, and DMRs, which are still three-shot kills. But everything else is pretty much going to take one extra bullet to kill. Now, to mitigate this, body armour will now no longer protect you at close ranges. So a gun that used to do 25 damage will now do 24 damage, so it's going to take 5 rounds to kill you at close range, but it will still take 5 rounds to kill you even if you're running the defensive perk. At longer ranges you may take an extra bullet as well, because what they've tried to do is make close and medium range guns less effective at long ranges. So you shouldn't really be sniping with an M416, you shouldn't really be doing medium range kills with a PDW, so they've just made it a bit harder by having that extra bullet required to get the kill. All revolvers have lost their trigger delay, so they now fire the instant you press the mouse button. Not sure that was a good idea, because the Magnum is now back to being an overpowered monster. Adjustments to the slower rate of fire weapons to make them easier to use at long ranges. So all the slow rate of fire weapons have had spread reductions and a bit of a recoil reduction, and this is to compensate for them now being useless at close range because of the extra bullet required to kill. So if you've got a slow rate of fire and need an extra bullet, your close range usefulness has now gone. The bullpup modifiers for carbines and PDWs have been increased. So assault rifles have stayed the same, but the carbines and PDWs now have their movement and aim down sight movement slightly increased. The guns with smaller magazine sizes, so the assault rifles with 25 round mags and similar weapons in the PDWs and carbines, have been given an extra magazine so that they now actually have the same number of bullets as the 30 round magazine guns did. The pew pew is gone. They've improved the audio of the DMR shots. Now when you're firing it sounds the same, but when you're being shot at, the pew 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 has disappeared. Talking of DMRs, the SKS and the M39 EBR now no longer lets you hold your breath as if you were a sniper. Ever wondered why you were getting shot halfway across the map by an SKS? That's why. And overall, the grenade capacity has been lowered and the times to resupply from ammo crates have been increased, and that's to reduce grenade spam. So effectively, most grenades you now carry one less. And that is the fall patch. So, like I say, expect this around the 30th of September. I believe that's the date they're aiming for. Might be a week later, because what they're having to do now is wait for Microsoft and Sony to sign off the updates. And the PC update isn't going to come out until they're all ready. Next we have details of Initiative 3 on the CTE servers, and this is the Teamplay Initiative. And they've announced this in 2 stages, one of which is what they're working on now, and one of which is what they want to work on in the future. And the reason for splitting that up is this first bunch they want to get ready in time for the release of Final Stand. The second bunch is what they want to do in patches post Final Stand. These are the features that DICE want to get done for the Final Stand release. We have gameplay objective scoring version 1. Now, version 1 of this is going to be tweaking the existing system to get the points up to a level where it's actually worthwhile going and taking an objective, and you're not getting more points from just staying on a hill and shooting people. Next up is health and ammo pack rebalance. Now, a lot of people have been getting this wrong and assuming that it's the health and ammo bags, but it clearly says pack. And the health and ammo packs were those little packs you used for the first few levels until you got the health and ammo bags, and then you never touched them again. So I think they're going to try and make those more useful in game and reward you with more points if you actually heal individual soldiers rather than just dump down a bag. They are finally going to fix the roadkill exploit, so you won't be able to aim your jeep at one of your friendly players, jump out and watch the jeep run him over. You're not going to be able to get killed by neutral vehicles, and that includes the vehicle you've just jumped out of that somehow manages to run you over. And they're changing the way that distance spotting works, so you won't be able to look at a group of players in the distance, hit Q and it will spot 4 or 5 of them. You're going to have to be a bit more accurate with where your cursors are and spam Q instead. Or of course you can just sweep around your gun and the new gadget will do all the spotting for you. They're going to be looking at the footstep sound improvements again. These were on the CTE servers for this current patch, but were removed because there was a bit of an issue with white noise appearing every now and again. So now they want to reintroduce that now it's fixed and put it into Final Stand. And they're going to change those random callouts that your character makes. So somebody in the room you're in gets shot and your character goes, "Oh my god, he's been killed." And then everybody else knows that you're in the room with him. Those are going to be cleaned up so that a lot of them will only be able to be heard by your own team, not the opposing team. The enemy will still be able to hear things like throwing out ammo bags or requesting healing or spotting, that kind of stuff they will still be able to hear. It's the more random game generated callouts that the enemy won't be able to hear anymore. Now, I'm not going to go through the future task list in this video because these are DICE's proposals and they want feedback and discussion on them, but if you're not on the CTE servers then you can't give that feedback and discussion, so it would be pointless going through a list of things that might not happen. And they're also looking for ideas. Now, these ideas on the Teamplay Initiative you could post on the normal forums. So if you have an idea of what you'd like to see in the game to make Teamplay work better, then do go into the normal forums and put it up in there. And don't forget that if you are on the PC and do have premium, you can go and join CTE. There's more news from Battlefield Hardline. We've got a new trailer for the game mode Hotwire. This has been released to go alongside a playable version of Hotwire which is at some of the gaming conferences. Now I'm going to show you the trailer and discuss it, but I have had to remove the sound from it because of course they've put music on the trailer and that gets struck by YouTube. Now originally Hotwire sounded like it was a race mode where you just had to get from one end of the map to the other as fast as possible. But it turns out that that's not what Hotwire is. Hotwire is a game with mobile capture points. As you can see from that car, it is a capture point. So what the teams have to do is capture cars and drive them around. You only capture the car or keep a car captured if you keep it moving. If the car stops, you lose its capture point. If the car gets destroyed, then the capture point respawns somewhere else. So Hotwire seems to be a cross between Conquest and the film Speed. If you slow down, you don't die in an explosion, but what you do is lose all the points you're getting from holding that car. One other thing that's been spotted in this trailer is a new gun, and that's the Carl Gustaf M45, which is a Swedish SMG first developed in 1945. So why there's such an old gun in the game isn't clear at this point, but I'm wondering if this is part of the distinction between the police and the robbers are going to be using older guns, whereas the police will be using newer ones. Another interesting thing that's been noticed at the conventions is they've swapped ammo bags and health bags around. So they've gone back to the Bad Company 2 system of the assault troops having an ammo bag and the support troops having the health bag. And the primary reason for doing that is to reduce the overall power of the assault troops. Having the best guns and the health bag is just too powerful. And that's it for this episode of Battlefield 4 News. So we can look forward to the fall patch coming probably the 30th September. When it does arrive, I won't do one video on the entire patch. I'll cut the patch up into related areas and then do videos on the patch notes for those areas because the patch notes are going to be massive. The new CTE Initiative is launching today, so I'll play that over the weekend and do a video on the changes possibly early next week. Well, that's it for now. Thanks for watching.